security cannot be also an excluded commodity and an included commodity. I'm sorry, Chair, just to talk about the Commodity Exchange Act more precisely.
Okay, so do you recognize, how would you categorize Ether then?
Look, I think that the general sweep of what Congress did, not just in the 30s, but as amended
I'm asking you,
years,
sitting in your chair now, to make an assessment under the laws as exist. Is Ether a commodity or a security?
without speaking to any one.
I know you've repeatedly said you're not going to speak to one, except you've spoken to one, Bitcoin. So I'm asking you to speak to a second one, the second largest market cap here.
And speaking to the tokens, there's 10 to 12,000. If there's a group of entrepreneurs in the middle,
asking about one.
The public is anticipating a profit based on the...
I'm asking you a specific question, Chair Gensler. I said this in private. This should be no shock to you. I'm asking this question. Is Ether a commodity or a security?
And again, it depends on the facts and the law, and if there's a group of individuals...
I'm asking you about the facts and the law sitting in your seat and the judgment you are making.
And so, Mr. Chair, I think you would not want me to prejudge because I'm also...
But you have prejudged on this. You've taken 50 enforcement actions. We're finding out as we go, as you file suit, as people get Wells notices on what is a security in your view, in your agency's view. I'm asking you a very simple question about the second largest digital asset. What is your view?
And my view is if there's a group of individuals in the middle that the public is anticipating...
All right, so let me just ask a second question then. Do you think it serves the market for an object to be viewed by the commodities regulator as a commodity and the securities regulator to be viewed as a security? Do you think that provides safety and soundness for the product? Do you think it provides consumer protection? Do you think it serves the value of innovation? I think no should be a very simple answer for you here.
I think
that uncertainty is bad, is it not?
And I think that Congress has said that there's one agency, the Securities and Exchange Commission, under this committee.
And you won't answer my question, and you're the head of that agency. So give me a break. Come on.
I'm answering it in the generic because you would not want me to speak about any one set of facts and circumstance.
Okay, so, but you've already spoken. Have you said anything about Bitcoin?
My predecessors and the agency itself has spoken to that.
Okay, but you're not willing to do the same about Ether. Okay, so let me just step back. There's a lack of clarity here in the marketplace. Can you at least agree to that?
I think that the clarity is there. The law is clear.
All right.
There's a group
so
of individuals
let me be explicit about this. The market doesn't see it. Your regulatory actions and the CFTC's regulatory actions say that there's a great deal of uncertainty here. It is the intention of this committee to fix that uncertainty and actually provide a sound legal basis for this. So let me get into your rulemaking process. So you've proposed 53 rules in 2 years. Mary Jo White proposed 23. Jay Clayton proposed 26. At the same time, your agency has consistently provided less comment period than either of your predecessors. Just as one example, when the SEC made significant changes to the U.S. equity markets in 2005 for regulation NMS, the Commission broadly solicited public feedback, held numerous roundtables, issued white papers and concept releases. Fast forward to today, you've proposed 4 equity market structure proposals that would impact millions of retail investors, and you provided a mere 60 days of comments on 1,600 pages of regulations. So let me ask you this. Do shorter comment periods and less public interaction improve rulemaking?
We actually put out the equity market structure rules, had 105 days of comment from the time we voted it out through March 31st. But I think robust public input helps us greatly, and we take comments on our rules. Our average has been about 70-plus days overall. But we also get comments.
And I want to get into the cost-benefit analysis, but my time has expired. With that, I'll recognize the ranking member.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gensler. I'd like to give you time to give your answer to Mr. McHenry and explain to him exactly how you define securities and commodities. Please go right ahead.
So a security by Congress's will has about 30-plus terms, and one of those terms is an investment contract. And the Supreme Court has addressed this multiple times over the years, And we as a commission have addressed this in these 100-plus actions that the chair mentioned. I think there's 130 or so actions we've taken. And it's basically, if the public is putting their hard-earned funds with entrepreneurs, promoters, and anticipating a profit, there's a 4-part test. And it's really, it's a broad sweep. Thurgood Marshall said that Congress painted with a broad brush to protect the public. And the SEC is an agency you all set up years ago, is a disclosure-based agency. We're merit neutral, but we're not neutral to full, fair, and truthful disclosure in crypto or elsewhere. And that's really the core. And so is there a group of entrepreneurs in the middle that are working on that project, promoting that project, have a website that the public looks to? Do they have Twitter accounts and handles? Do they upgrade the software, and is the public sort of reading about them, anticipating a profit based? And in fact, is there somebody that's even visiting you and they're hiring lawyers and sending them in to, to talk to us and so forth? Is there something there that the public is anticipating a profit based upon those efforts?
Thank you very much. Chair Gensler, I'd like to ask a few questions about crypto. You've often suggested that we're witnessing mass noncompliance with our securities laws by crypto firms. However, crypto firms often suggest that their coins and activities are different and need a new statutory framework. Do you agree? And does the SEC have the authorities it needs to bring crypto issuers and intermediaries into compliance with the investor protection and market integrity framework built over the past 90 years?
Yes, I do believe that we have the authorities we need and the laws to protect the investors.
Would you say that one more time?
Yes, I do believe that we have the laws and we have the authorities to oversee the crypto intermediaries, the crypto exchange.
Are you exercising that authority now?
Yes, we are.
Would you describe for this committee how you're doing that? I understand that you have engaged with a number of crypto firms. Is that correct?
We have. We talked to the crypto firms, some tokens to how they can register, but also these platforms. I've been around finance for over 40 years in one way or the other. I've never seen a field that's so non-compliant with laws written by Congress and affirmed over and over by the courts. But this is a largely unfortunate for the investing public, non-compliant field.
Thank you very much. I'm going to move on to a question about deregulating capital markets. As you know, this committee cares about increasing access to capital, particularly for small businesses. I, for example, have worked with Chair McHenry to pass legislation on crowdfunding and other innovative ways for startups and small businesses to raise capital. These are targeted approaches to supporting business growth and creating jobs. Some on the committee suggest, however, that deregulation is needed, but I don't see how deregulating capital markets is good for small business, job creation, innovation, or economic growth. Would you please explain whether or not you believe deregulation is needed?
I think that we've benefited in this country by the markets, and that small businesses can raise capital in a well-regulated market that protects against fraud and manipulation. And the reason small business benefits is because it lowers the risk in the markets when you can lower the amount of fraud and manipulation and you promote good transparency.
Thank you very much. My time is almost up, but I just want you to reiterate whether or not you really have the authority to do what is necessary in dealing with the crypto markets. You said it twice, say it a third time, please.
Well, I think we do. We could use more resources, but I do think we have the authorities.
Have you indicated what resources you need?
We have in congressional testimony to the House Appropriations Committee, and it's included in this testimony as well.
Thank you very much. I yield back the balance of my time.
We'll now recognize the gentleman from Arkansas, Mr. Hill, for 5 minutes, the Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Gensler, thank you for coming to be with us today. I want to continue to follow up on Chair McHenry's questioning. I'll attempt to be more successful. In November 2021, the President's Working Group on Financial Markets released its report on stablecoins, which recommended that Congress enact legislation to establish a federal prudential framework for stablecoins. You remember that report?
I do, sir.
Is the SEC a member of the President's Working Group?
We are, sir.
And do you believe that, did you support that recommendation of the President's Working Group?
I did.
And do you think that Congress has been inactive on this topic?
As best I know, Congress is engaged with the administration throughout the 2 years, so.
You would call that active? Yeah. We're looking for that framework, and you support us drafting a regulatory framework for payment stablecoins.
If I could say, when stablecoins, I think that it's important to ensure that there's safety and soundness there, and that if this committee and Congress were to address this through legislation to ensure that we don't undermine our $100 trillion capital markets, that we don't inadvertently somehow undermine what money market funds operate in this country or how other parts of the financial markets. Lastly, that we don't undermine both the CFTC's and SEC's authorities to go after fraud and manipulation, because right now these stable coins are being used in the crypto ecosystem, and I think you really do want that cop in the beat, the SEC on the beat in the crypto ecosystem.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that you support a regulatory framework, and I think those issues you raise have to be taken into account by the President's Working Group, and I think they have. I mean, I think those are addressed in their reports, and I think that's certainly the focus of hearings, and so I'm glad to hear, and I don't think I'm putting words in your mouth, that you do support Congress attempting to create a regulatory framework for payment stablecoins. Is that fair?
I think with the guardrails of not undermining the $100 trillion capital markets, and remember,
I got your checklist. We've got that.
I was just going to also, in the recent events in the markets, one of those stable coins actually had over $3 billion at Silicon Valley Bank.
Understand?
So
terrible decision by them.
So
terrible decision by Silicon Valley Bank. We've already had a hearing on that subject, and I know we'll have some more follow-up on it. Let me ask you about the Consolidated audit trail, something that's plagued my existence for the 8 years I've served in Congress. I've already on record not a supporter of the CAT. Has the SEC issued the final rule on the Consolidated audit trail to the best of your knowledge?
the rules are in place. We're still working on parts related to filings in front of us on funding and some amendments with regard to data security.
Would it surprise you that some people in the brokerage community weren't aware that the CAT is actually already being collected as of December 31st? And are you aware that that data is already being collected?
We are actually, as a regulatory agency, aware that it's being collected, transaction data is being collected, and we benefit from that.
Are you concerned about the encryption of that data, that it's inadequate?
I think as a government agency, we should always be focused on data security, and data encryption is one of the pieces of data security.
I'd like for you to respond to me about if you would, respond in writing about the encryption of that and the protection of anything that would be considered personally identifiable information. Let me turn to a different subject, which is the Treasury market. We have a time right now where the Fed is shrinking its balance sheet and where there's an unprecedented amount of Treasury issue because of the avalanche in spending by the Biden administration. Is the SEC a member of the Interagency Working Group on the Treasury market?
Yes, we are, sir.
And yet you have this proposal, as I read it, that would say that people who are buyers of Treasuries could somehow be swept up and become dealers. Why are you proposing that someone who might be a dealer, an investor in Treasury suddenly become a dealer?
It's really under a law Congress passed in the 1980s after a lot of problems in the Treasury markets, but it's focused on parties that are facilitating buying and selling Treasuries and making markets in those Treasuries in the markets to get them registered whether they be high-frequency traders or others that are active in the market.
My time's expired. We'll have to continue this conversation offline. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.